There's an unemployment rate of 18% here in this community. 1 in 4 homes boarded up. 25% of youth aged 16 to 25 aren't in school, don't have their GED or their diploma, not working.
So the Reeb Avenue Center was founded about 2.5 years ago, and the idea is really to create a hub of hope for our neighborhood.
It is physically a 110-year-old elementary school that has now been converted to a hub of hope for our Southside neighbors. It has 14 nonprofit partners who work for our neighbors in the area of education and employment.
But it's bigger than that because it also offers hope. And so not only do we help finding jobs, but we help people if they have drug and alcohol addiction, or if they need housing, or if they just need a meal.
But we came in from the very beginning and asked our neighbors, what do you need? And we believe we've addressed that through the 14 nonprofits that we've brought together. And they're not just housed in this building, but then 14 nonprofit partners are working together to ensure that our neighbors who walk through the door have a warm handoff from one partner to the next.
My name is Deej, born 1996. Father died 1997 when I was 9 months of age. My mother's side of the family was from Texas, never heard of. My father was adopted, so his side of the family was never spoken of, so I really didn't have that older role model to look up to growing up, which compelled me to live a life of deception following the streets. Growing up without a father was rough to me. I would often tear up seeing a lot of the kids walk to school with their fathers or play in the park with their fathers. And I never had that relationship. I never had that bond with my father. So it broke me down as a kid, and I swore to my life if I ever had a son growing up, he would never experience that pain. My mom was always working 2 to 3 jobs, so it was a lot of questions that never been answered, was built a lot of frustration. And that same frustration compelled me to start selling drugs and doing other little small hustles to accommodate financial needs. By the age of 15, I was already desensitized to seeing guns, drugs, gangs, violence, prostitution, just from the area I was raised in. By 16, I was coming in late nights, skipping school from selling marijuana, just being accustomed to hungry nights and having to wash up with cold water, lighting the house with candles. It formed a mindset to get it by any means, and that's exactly what I did. But that same mindset is what led me to being incarcerated in a juvenile correctional facility for 3 years.
My first impression of DJ when I first saw him in my courtroom was of an angry young man, as many of the youth that come into my courtroom are. He made no eye contact with me. My biggest fear for DJ, as it is for all of my kids, is that they are lost and that they are just going to be in a cycle.
2013, 17 years old, I was sentenced to juvenile life at Circleville Juvenile Correctional Facility. But what I thought was going to be a consequence turned out to be the biggest blessing that I've ever encountered. Having that same mindset to get it by any means, I went in there with a detrimental perception. My first month, I involved myself in a gang where I started fighting, smuggling contraband, smoking, and disrespecting staff. Within the first 6 months, I became the leader of the gang, where I really started to cause a lot of trouble in the facility. In November of 2014, I started a riot on the yard. The day after the riot, the superintendent had a meeting with me and the leader of the opposite gang. Handcuffed and shackled, he pulled us in his office and he looked me in my eyes and told me, my actions should lead me to prison, but my potential was what's stopping him from doing so. So he gave me another chance. That second chance showed me that I was a better person and I was presenting myself. So from that day forward, I always told myself I was going to leave that facility a different and a better person than I came in. So there I started to change. Before the year was up, I shut down the gang and started using those same leadership skills that I used in the gang to drive the kids to start going to school, involve themselves in more beneficial programs, lower their acts of violences, and become better youth throughout the facility. Halfway into my sentence, I filed for an early release and was denied. I remember talking to Chaplain Kershaw as I was discouraged, and he told me not to look at it as a bad thing, but a blessing. And one of those blessings was being able to volunteer at the Reeb Center. For a few hours each day, I would volunteer at the Roots Cafe in the Reeb Center, where I would help stock produce, serve food, and clean. After a few months of volunteering, I was hired on where I was given my first job while incarcerated. At that job, I met Miss Jane, Miss Tanny, and Miss Allie, who all plays a big part in who I am today.
So we meet a million different people that come into the Reeb Avenue Center with all different kinds of needs. And the very first time I met DJ, you knew something was different. And the sense that he had, the way that he carried himself, his pride, but a genuine, authentic, caring spirit about him.
I remember meeting DJ as he was serving us food, and from the first moment we met DJ, there was a sparkle in his eyes. We witnessed his servant heart, and we felt his spirituality.
That job was more than an opportunity to go outside of the facility and make some legal money. It was the key that unlocked many doors filled with blessings. After serving 3 of the 4 years, I filed for my early release again, and this time was able to stand in front of the judge. Having a lot of strong advocates prompted the judge to grant my early release. The judge that once sentenced me to do juvenile life was in the courtroom in tears, explaining how it's people like me that makes her continue to do what she do.
And to watch Judge Gill ask each individual to stand up, and the emotion that outpoured from everyone because of the love in the room for this one young man who made a difficult decision early on in his life, who's changed his ways, that brought tears to the whole courtroom.
Everybody burst into, as I recall, clapping and hugging, and I told DJ to come back, and that was my only requirement, is that he came back and told me of the great things that he is going to do, and he is doing that, and that makes me so happy. It was a great day. We don't have enough of those in juvenile court, but it is one I will always remember.
DJ's story is so compelling to me and to all of us because it's so real and it's so raw.
I want our community to know to give people a chance, because we have an incredible community on the south side of Columbus, and we just need to give people a chance and remove the barriers and help them overcome them.
Behind the scenes, there's a lot of weight put on my shoulders that becomes overwhelming at times. My mother is 62 years of age, still living in the same house of struggle. My sister is 26 years old, 3 kids with 3 different fathers, neither one of them supportive. And my brother just got incarcerated, sentenced to 3 years in prison. And all 3 of them depend on me both physically and financially. It's not easy, but the challenge of life makes it worth living. I get up every day with a tunnel vision to my dreams and refuse to let anything stop me from being unstoppable. So my word to you is, don't make excuses, make it happen. Because with patience, perseverance, and persistence, anything, and I mean anything, is possible.
I'm taking chances, if they land you might remember my name. Still standing after all the rest have faded away. I'll go the distance in the end, you'll be looking at me. Yeah,